Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NEWSROOM. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 8th of September 2022, and we will be discussing the following during the course of our show. We'll begin with the significance of today, because today is the 8th of September and it's also the Navy Day. We'll be talking about the historical perspective of today and how the Navy is one of the most important factors as far as the defense of Pakistan and our motherland is concerned. How the Navy continues to defend our motherland since 1947 has played a very significant role in the wars of 1965, especially because of which today we celebrate the Navy Day of the Operation Somnath, in which they of course destroyed the Dwarka, the Indian flotilla of Dwarka, and we will be discussing the role of the Navy in today as well, when the floods are engulfing Pakistan and are causing havoc, and how the Navy and its personnel are risking their lives to help those who are in need across the country. This is going to be our first segment. Then we'll be talking about new world blocks in the making in the perspective of the Russia-Ukraine war. Russia has taken out a new foreign policy doctrine that is based on the concept of a Russian world. We also know about the Indo-Pacific strategy of the United States of America. So where is all of this going in the context of the changing geopolitical and geostrategic scenario of the world? Will we be seeing more tensions? Will we be seeing a multipolar world, a bipolar world, or a much more complicated situation as far as the world geography and politics is concerned? This is going to be our second segment. Then we will be talking about the relationship that exists between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. Now, Chief of the Army Staff General Qamar Javed Bajwa has said that Pakistan views its historical relationship with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and acknowledges its unique place in the Islamic world. He was talking to the Minister for Defense from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Samir bin Abdulaziz Al Tabib, in Rawalpindi. Of course, the relationship between both the countries is quite significant, important. The kingdom has been there for Pakistan in times of need and continues to be there for Pakistan even today in the times of flood and economic crisis. Then we'll be talking about Dr. Gregory Stanton, who is the founder of a Genocide Watch, who has said that the way things are going in India and in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, the lives of 200 million plus Muslims is at stake, and this is what the intention of the Hindus in India is to completely eliminate this population of Muslims in India. A very alarming statement. We will be discussing that in today's shows as well. And finally, we'll be talking about social worker and Iqra University's founding chancellor, Hunaid Lakhani, who passed away in Karachi on Thursday at the age of 49 from complications from a dengue. Now, of course, this goes on to say that not only diseases such as COVID, but also dengue play havoc with your lives, and we've lost a very important, significant personality as far as Pakistan's education sector is concerned due to this. This is going to be our last story. Let's begin with our first segment, ladies and gentlemen, that concerns the significance of today, that is the Navy Day, and also the role of the Pakistan Navy in defending our motherland since 1947, even now in these times of floods. More in the following report.
Pakistan is struggling to respond to the floods given their unprecedented magnitude. As many as 33 million of population of 220 million have been affected in a disaster triggered by climate change that has left hundreds of thousands homeless and caused losses of at least $10 billion, officials estimate. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif stated that government is taking steps for rehabilitation of flood affectees in coordination with all relevant departments. The Prime Minister has also directed authorities concerned to ensure rehabilitation and reconstruction of highways, bridges and other infrastructure, and has increased the compensation amount from 28 billion to 70 billion rupees, while 20 billion rupees through Benazir Income Support Program have already been distributed. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres will pay a 2-day visit to Pakistan to express solidarity with the country braving a colossal climate-induced natural disaster. In a statement, Foreign Office spokesperson Asim Iftikhar said the Secretary General's visit will further raise global awareness about the massive scale of this calamity and the resulting loss of life and widespread devastation. The floods have highlighted the importance of sustained international support of Pakistan through the rehabilitation and reconstruction phase and for building resilience against future climate shocks.
Now, to discuss the significance of today, we've been joined in the studios by Commander Sajid Hussain from the Pakistan Navy. Commander Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. Commander Sahab, let's begin with the significance of today, that is the Navy Day. We celebrate this every year. The 6th is an overall defense day, then the 7th is the Pakistan Air Force Day, and today is the Pakistan Navy Day. Now, we all know about the Operation Somnath. We all know how you bombarded the Indian port of Dwarka and destroyed the radar system on this very day. We would like a lot of our people who do not know of the Operation Somnath to give us small details about how that happened.
First of all, thank you very much for providing us this opportunity to join PTV and highlighting the significance of Navy Day particularly. You know, whenever in the world there is a war in between any two countries, it is primarily a Triforce's job. If the specific country is maintaining all the three forces, which in case of Pakistan and India was. So in that war of September 65, actually, you know, the war was imposed on us by the adversary, and as per their plans, their initial plans, they wanted to curtail the war towards Lahore and Sialkot sector. So in order to contribute towards this national cause, Pakistan Navy also took an initiative, and there were various multiple objectives behind Pakistan Navy's contribution in that. One of them was that, you know, Dwarka was a very significant kind of radar station, which was providing very useful help to the Indian Air Force, because of which they were able to carry out attacks inside Pakistan by utilizing the services of the Dwarka radar station. So Pakistan Navy took this initiative to cut that vital source of information, so that the Indian Air Force is somewhat kind of blind in this sector. In order to conduct this operation, it was, I mean, the plans were already there, only the execution part was there. So while executing this Operation Somnath, a total of 7 ships were tasked to carry out bombardment at the Dwarka port, and each ship was tasked to bombard at least 50 rounds on the Dwarka. So you can imagine that more than 350 rounds are bombarded on the Dwarka station. Obviously it was of no use and completely destroyed. So that was a very useful and vital kind of contribution which Pakistan Navy did, although there were risks involved in that also. But you know, war is itself a risky job, and we have to do it because we are wearing this uniform in order to be prepared for such kind of activities. So what happened that these ships, when they were actually involved in that operation, one of our another vital asset, which was the submarine, was also in that area, and the task provided to the submarine was that, because we were expecting that we might face some retaliation from the Indian side, specifically from the Indian Navy side. So you know, the submarine has a hidden capability to remain submerged underwater and remain silent and act when it is needed. So what happened that you know, the Indians were so scared of the presence of Pakistan Navy submarine in that area, so they did not even try to venture out against the or in retaliation to the Pakistan Navy's attack on the Dwarka. So the submarine was already there. Had they tried to venture out, it could have been another success story for PNSM Ghazi. But you know, the kind of enemy we have, they were so coward that they never tried to venture out, and they never tried to challenge even the presence of Pakistan Navy in that area.
You talked about the Indian port of Dwarka, and you said how at that time it was providing critical information as far as Pakistani stations were concerned. Now, with times change the techniques. There are state-of-the-art technologies now that are available to the armies, to the navies, and to the air forces. What about the Pakistan Navy? How combat ready are you? How state-of-the-art? How ready are you with the state-of-the-art technologies?
Yes, you have asked a very pertinent question. Actually, you know, if you go back to the time of independence, you know, and it is a known fact that the distribution of resources, even on the military side also, was not fair enough, and it was more partial towards India. So we started with those meager kind of resources, and with the passage of time, we built the state at par with the international standards and the latest technology. If you look at the recent inductions in Pakistan Navy and some of the inductions which are already in pipeline, you will find that they are no less than any of the advanced Navy in the world, and we are trying to keep it as modernized as possible. I'll highlight some of the recent inductions also. We know that recently we have inducted 2 of the Type 054 ships from China, and 2 more are under process of induction. Similarly, we are in the process of inducting 4 more ships from Turkey also. We have inducted OPVs also, which are offshore patrol vessels. And recently we have inducted the aviation, in the aviation category we have inducted Sea-King helicopters also. So these are the few of the latest induction which depicts that Pakistan Navy is in the process of modernization, while in order to remain modern and at par with the international standards.
How combat ready are you, Commander Saab, and your whole fleet, as well as the Pakistan Navy, in case of any emergency? And are you always on your toes 24/7 in case of any emergency situation?
Yes, you are right. Actually, what happens is that the the armed forces are designed to be vigilant 24/7, you know, because the kind of adversary which is just next door neighbor to us can create any kind of disturbance which we have witnessed in the past also. But as far as the responses are concerned, you know that even in peacetime also we are ready to respond to any unprovoked or provoked or whatever kind of challenge from the adversary. Just in the recent past, I'll quote 3 incidents, 3 similar incidents in which we detected 3 of the Indian submarines at different time intervals, which is a very challenging task if we talk about the anti-submarine operations. Detecting a conventional submarine in an open ocean is quite a challenging job. Pakistan Navy, alhamdulillah, has been successful in detecting Indian submarines, which Indians have never been able to detect on our submarine. And you know, if I talk in terms of the war terminologies, it is said that in actual war scenario, detecting a submarine means practically you have killed it, because then there is no escape for the conventional submarine if he is detected. So we went to that, but obviously since we were not in the state of war, so we thwarted the enemy and compelled the Indian submarine to go back to their own waters. So this is the kind of professionalism we depict in the peacetime also.
Not only the state-of-the-art technologies, Commander Sajid Hussain, but also state-of-the-art trainings are very important, and these trainings need to be updated on a very regular level, because there are new methodologies that come to the fore more or less every few months or every years. Where does the Pakistan Navy get training from? Does it get training from Pakistan, or does it go abroad to have training?
Most of our training setup is well equipped, and so that is why we train our officers and men within Pakistan. But in order to remain abreast with the international knowledge, we do send our trainees from here to other countries, to other friendly countries, with which we have common training kind of methodologies. So our trainees are also trained from abroad. It is at different levels. For the sailors, we do have some of the foreign courses. Similarly for junior officers and at mid-career level also. Like you asked this specific question, so I have been trained from South Africa also. I did my joint staff and junior staff and warfare course from South Africa. So similarly, we have ties with other friendly countries, and not only we send our trainees, but you know, it is a mutual kind of learning process. They also send their trainees to our training institutes, and at present there are various international students which are undergoing training at various Pakistan Navy training establishments.
You talked about this coordination, collaboration between different countries between different navies. Are there joint exercises also that take place between navies of friendly countries, including yours and other countries?
Yes, there are quite frequent international joint training exercises in which our navy ships, aircraft also, and even men also, they participate. But one of the significant which we do conduct at regular intervals, and that is the Aman exercise. Obviously, this word Aman is Urdu,
peace.
but I mean the complete slogan is together for peace, so that the non-Urdu speaking countries should also be able to understand what is the reason behind this slogan of Aman. We do conduct it every 2 years. The last exercise of this series was conducted in 2021, and inshallah next is being planned in 2023. During last exercise, you can imagine that I mean you can see the participation, that is more than 50 navies from more than 50 countries. They participated in the exercise Aman 21. So this depicts the professionalism and the level of confidence the international navies and the other countries they have in Pakistan Navy, because it is, you know, it is a joint or mutual learning process.
True.
And I am very happy to say that not only navies from the smaller countries they participated in the Aman exercises. During last Aman exercise, there were participation from major navies also, which includes the United States, Russian, Royal Navy from UK, and China, and all such bigger nations.
All right. Now you talk of peacetime exercises, and you talked about the Aman exercises. We are at peace times, but we are not exactly at peacetime nowadays in Pakistan, because we are engulfed by effects of climate change through floods and the devastation that they have caused. Now, the armed forces that include the Pakistan Navy are on the forefront as far as helping the people in need, providing them with the necessary shelters, food, medicine is concerned. How robust is the Pakistan Navy and its activities as far as helping those in need due to the floods is concerned?
You are right. You see, Pakistan Navy is also operating and concerned with this kind of natural calamity, and you know the kind of damage which has been occurred across the country is kind of unprecedented. You know, because of the heavy rains, or I mean it can't be compared with the previous record even. So that much amount of rain is there. So you know when the damage is unprecedented, the response has to be unprecedented. True. Also. So we are geared up, alhamdulillah, for that. We are trained for that, and we have sufficient resources also to meet the such kind of calamity. If I talk about the Pakistan Navy's response towards the humanitarian assistance, actually, you know, the Pakistan Navy primarily operates in the south of the country, that is Sindh and Balochistan. So we started our flood relief operations from.
But the most devastated areas more devastated by the floods are Sindh and Balochistan.
Yes, you are right. But you know the damage was also somewhere in the KPK also.
Yes,
so true. That's why we extended our flood relief operations towards KPK also, which is at far distance from the coast also. So we at present also, while we are talking, our flood relief teams and the medical teams, they are in the field helping people, trying to. I mean, the initial part was to rescue people from the flood affected area. And if I talk primarily about the Navy's role, you know, we are geared up in terms of the specific platforms which we have to carry out such operation. Like we have got small boats which can operate in shallow water. We have got hovercraft, which is a specialized platform which can operate in very shallow water as well as on land also.
We've also got helicopters.
Yes,
that
we have
save
got.
the people.
Yes, we have got helicopters which have the sling operations, and we can conduct sling operation by airlifting the people who are strangled in the flooded areas. So that is how. Plus, we have got on ground. We have got placed our medical teams to assist the people who are in dire need of medical assistance. In addition, we have provided a large quantity of flood relief goods, plus the medications also.
Also, you've established flood relief centers and center collection points where you are helping the people who are in need. In this whole devastation, in this whole, you know, atmosphere of how should I say, gloom, maybe because of the effects that the floods have had on people's livelihoods, on the lives of their families, children, their whole houses have been destroyed, their crops have been destroyed. What role do the forces, including the Pakistan Navy, have in not only to sustain the livelihoods of the people, to give them relief, to rehabilitate them one way or the other, but also give them shelter in this time of need?
You know, the immediate kind of shelter which can be provided to such area is in the form of tents. and we have donated large number of tents in various areas where people have lost their homes or are unable to live or are living on just under the open sky. So primary focus was to provide them at least a shelter where they can be safe, and then obviously when the water level will go down, they will be sent back to their own areas, and the rehabilitation process will start. So this we are in such a process now.
Commander sir, there's also the health related issues that have cropped up, whether it be cholera, whether it be dengue, malaria, and waterborne diseases, diarrhea, COVID, and so many other diseases that are prevalent now amongst the victims of this tragedy that is the flood. What kind of medical facilities is the Pakistan Navy also providing to the people?
Our doctors, qualified doctors along with the nursing staff is there in the field. We have established dedicated medical camps to deal with such kind of diseases. Particularly you talked about the waterborne diseases. So in order to counter the adverse effects of those waterborne diseases, the medical teams are providing the basic health care, and the serious patients are also shifted to the other nearby hospitals. In addition, we have provided a large quantity, more than 450,000 liters of drinking water to those areas, so that people are able to drink clean water, so that it does not, it curtails the effects of further spreading the waterborne diseases.
All right. The Pakistan Navy is also undergoing diving operations to help those who are stranded in difficult places that are not easy to reach even through helicopters, or to help those who are drowning. How much of a relief is that for those who, when you rescue them, when you give them rehabilitation, when you give them food, shelter, what kind of a response have you generally seen from those who have been affected by the floods? There
are people who have seen such a vast body of water for the first time,
True.
So when they are entangled into that, so rescuing them from that calamity is a blessing for them, So Alhamdulillah, God has actually provided us this opportunity to be there and help them in whatever way we can. Our primary focus is to save lives, but obviously when the flood water was at high swing, there are various casualties also. So then the diving team they also were tasked to find out the dead bodies of the people who could not survive. So that is a particular task which only the divers can carry out.
True.
And the Pakistan Navy has the specialty in that also.
Thank you very much, Commander Sajid Hussain Sahab, to have joined us, to have talked to us about not only the significance of today, that is the 8th of September, with reference to Operation Somnath, and of course you gave us a bit of detail about how that happened in 1965 and how the Pakistan Navy stays vigilant, just like the other armed forces of Pakistan, in times of war and in times of peace and in times of flood, to help our people, to help our motherland from any calamity that it might be confronted with. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. That was Commander Sajid Hussain Sahab from the Pakistan Navy talking to us about the significance of the 8th of September, that is the Pakistan Navy Day, as well as the efforts that the Pakistan Navy is undergoing to help those in need because of the floods that have occurred all across Pakistan. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the new world order, the new political blocs that are being formed across the world, whether it be Russia's new political doctrine or the US Indo-Pacific strategy. New strategic developments are occurring across the world. What kind of impact is that going to have, not only on countries across the world, but also developing countries like Pakistan? More in the following report.
As the Russia-Ukraine war enters its 197th day, there have been myriad diplomatic and battlefield developments with far-reaching consequences for contemporary world. A referendum in Kherson on becoming part of Russia has been paused, the Russian state news agency TASS reported. In its bid to strengthen its image as a democratic state in the international arena, striving to form a multipolar world, Russian President Vladimir Putin has approved a 31-page doctrine outlining the Kremlin's broad foreign policy vision based around the values and interests interests of Russian world. Among the doctrine's tenets are strengthening the global perception of Russia, promoting Russian traditional culture and value, and bolstering ties with countries including the Slavic nations, India and China. Earlier, Russian president signed a new naval doctrine that cast the US as main rival and set out Russia's global maritime ambitions for crucial areas such as Arctic and the Black Sea. While announcing indefinite shutdown of gas pipeline, the Kremlin said that collective West is to blame for the shutdown of Nord Stream 1, as sanctions against Russia are preventing necessary repairs to the pipeline's machinery. European officials have accused Russia of using repairs as an excuse to halt natural gas deliveries and possible retaliation for Europe's support of Ukraine.
Now, Vladimir Putin, as I've announced in the beginning of this segment, has announced a new foreign policy doctrine that is based on the Russian world. We also know about the US Indo-Pacific strategy that was announced some time back, in which more emphasis is being laid on certain countries in the region, and there is a certain reference to China, of course, to hold ground against the rising popularity or strength of countries such as China. And also we in the whole context of the Russia-Ukraine conflict also, there are countries across the world that includes the United States of America, that include the European Union, that are also combining and joining their hands in order to build a new front. Now that Russia has also announced a new foreign policy doctrine that is based on Russian world, there is going to be a huge change as far as the strategic developments in the region is concerned. We all know Russia's influence in the region. We also know China's role and the way it is emerging as a very strong power, and of course that is creating a lot of ripples in the West as far as how strong China can become in the years to come. Then add to that the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which on the one hand is creating issues with the West, with the European Union and with Ukraine, but on the other hand is also showing the strength of Russia as not only an important power that is wielding strategic strength inside the world, but also the emergence of a new development as far as how political blocs are being made across the world. We've been joined by Dr. Salma Malik, who is a renowned foreign affairs specialist, to talk about this and more. Dr. Sahiba, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Salma Malik, when Vladimir Putin announces a new Russia doctrine, calls it the Russia based on the Russian world, we also know about the Indo-Pacific strategy by the United States of America that has been announced some time back. Is the Russian world doctrine a response to the Indo-Pacific strategy, or is there more to it?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. Russia has been coming up big, and it's been trying to announce to the world, herald to the world, that what it is all about, the lost glory that Russia was. Putin has been very concerned about bringing Russia's old glorious image back to the world platform, and this is one attempt towards that. For the audience, one must also bring it to notice that big countries, when they are trying to assert themselves, they do two things. One, of course, is to declare what their strategy or mindset is all about. It can be a very open declaration. It can be a quadrilateral intent. It can be a State of the Union address, as we are comfortable with these terminologies when it comes to the US. With the Iron Curtain world in the yesteryears during the Cold War, this transparency or openness about what their policy overtures were was very limited. They wouldn't really talk about it. Plus the fact that majority of us are attuned to the Western narrative a lot more, and we have heard a lot more from them. And this is a page both China as well as Russia are taking out of the American strategic thought, and now they're becoming a little more transparent than they were before. Previously, ambiguity was considered to be the buzzword. It was considered to be something which was a good idea, that we don't need to be so open and transparent that we inform the adversary as to what we intend. But now in this world, which is globally interconnected, interdependent, these countries are making this effort to declare their intent and to show as to what their soft peddling is all about, and how to sell the narrative. So it is the selling of the narrative. It is also trying to define and reconfirm what the boundaries are. what the Russian boundaries are, and where not to cross those thresholds, the territorial thresholds, the mental thresholds, the physical thresholds, economic, etc., etc. And in which,
Dr. Salma, Malik, to talk of thresholds, that's a very interesting point, because in the whole conflict between Russia and Ukraine, do you really see those thresholds not being, you know, passed? And also in this whole new doctrine that the Russian hierarchy has put up, there is also the need to have stronger connections with the other Slavic nations. In the whole context also of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, do you feel this is a possibility, an emerging possibility, or do you feel Slavic nations are going to be reluctant to create a strong relationship with Russia following this conflict? These are two questions that I'm asking you.
I would say one thing. When we look at the developments in these last 6 months, Pakistan went to on a state visit to Russia. Unfortunately, the visit by itself was not so controversial. The rhetoric as a result of that visit became controversial and made the visit controversial. But when we look at India, what we actually see is that India actually did not side with its strategic partner of today, that is the US, and it pursued entirely its own policies and trust. And it has done from time to time. And India has been given waivers, one-time waivers, exceptions. America has looked the other way while India did whatever it had to do.
But isn't that
so
part of because of the Indo-Pacific strategy of the US, wherein it gives more importance to India as a nation?
Self-interest driven point that I'm saying here. So I think the need here is to figure out how to manage yourself around these contours that are being constructed, reconstructed, evaluated, or re-evaluated. And so long as the countries understand how to manage or play these cards well, I think it's a perfect balancing of strategy. It's easier said than done. It's not such a simple game that we are playing a game of chess, but of course, it's a grand chessboard, as the grand analysts talk about. And if we are good chess players, we will definitely have the deal to ourselves. So from our perspective, if you're looking at this strategy which is being drawn, I think a lot of that Russia is already practicing. Russia had given its red lines to the Western world before it entered Ukraine or made this military intervention in Ukraine. And the Western world kept on trying Russia's physical thresholds. They kept on trying to call its bluff that it will not intervene the way it did. And eventually it finally did. And now the Western world has this narrative of humane help to the beleaguered Ukrainians and so many other things. But if we go past February 2022, and we looked at how these developments led to the ultimate Russian intervention in Ukraine, the red signals, the flags, the signaling, the narrative, all of that was pointing towards this eventuality that finally happened in February. So I think by doing this declared doctrinal shift that Russia is making, now it is putting these things in clear. How the US will look at it, how they are going to draw lines. This may lead to what we have been speculating about, a new Cold War. But is that new Cold War going to be a binary, or it is going to be a triad with China becoming a third party? And this time China is not going to play a second fiddle. China is not going to be a country which is going to be written down in history as a country which is still coming up. This China is a formidable country. It is using smart power. And when we say smart power, that's the ideal mix as how China thinks of both its hard as well as soft power potentials. So in case the Western world tries to now test these limits, it is going to become a very, very messy affair. And I think after reading these doctrines, however humane the strategy or the soft power potential Russia is putting across to the world, there has to be a very serious thought process happening in the Western worlds about what their strategy to deal with Asian powers or Eurasian powers now is going to be.
Now, Dr. Saiba, you know, in this whole binary or triad scenario that could emerge in the next few weeks or months, and as you said, the importance of China, that is manifold, and it's going to be paramount in the months to come as well. Where does that leave developing countries such as Pakistan? We have always maintained that we do not want to be part of any bloc, but will we be forced to become part of one bloc or the other? And is there any way for Pakistan to remain neutral, to kind of have equal and strong relationships with all the political blocs?
I think that's the power of diplomacy. I don't think that's such a difficult or an impossible thing to achieve. If US has to offer us something on the geostrategic platform, so be it. US still remains, however marginally involved in Afghanistan. Yes, they don't want to have very cozy relations with Pakistan because they have found a likely partner in India, but India is also driving a pretty hard bargain. So if India can balance between the US and the Russian Federation, and also have economic relations with China at the peak of Galwans and Doklams, why can't Pakistan actually, without getting into confrontational terms with any of the three parties? Look at Pakistan now. We are totally marginalized. We have our own problems to handle. Let's get a grip on our economic issues. If we have CPEC, we then also have China talking to the IMF and to various authorities, which are Western authorities, to bail us out of an economic fallout. And that has happened. So that's a mixing of both the Asian and the Western world. And we've also had a start of yet another friendly relations feeler with Russia. So I think, number one, Pakistan needs to stop thinking that it is one of the most important countries of the world. We just need to put our act together, solidify ourselves as an economically viable country. And once we do that, and for this we need all type of powers that we can get hold of. And we have sufficient diplomatic potential to juggle these three corners. As for China, China is not only one of our oldest and deepest and most all-season friend. China also understands this potential of multilateral diplomacy, which is very important for countries such as ours to survive in the world. And China has put no conditionalities that if you want to get into CPEC with us, then you don't have to be at good terms with USA or with the Russian Federation. So why don't we play this situation well? We have this opportunity and we can rise to the occasion. And all it requires is good diplomacy, less talking, and solid footings. We have done that when it comes to our military initiatives and military exchange, both with Russia as well as China, as well as USA, during USA's positioning in Afghanistan. And all these three corners were being looked by Pakistan, and we were juggling these pretty well. I think we can do it at the larger scale as well, and it's not going to take too much. Again, I'm saying I'm not trying to demean ourselves. What I'm trying to say here is don't consider ourselves to be the pivotal point where everyone is going to converge. No, detract attention from ourselves, build our potential, and build our inroads with all three blocks and get the maximum out of it. India did it during the very vicious classic binary Cold War, and they got away with very little damage. In fact, they benefited from the best of the both worlds. Pakistan can do it very well itself. India is even doing it today. But for me, I'm not taking India as an example that because they have done it, so we should also do it. I'm just giving this example that we are a people of the same mindset. We are close neighbors. We have a lot of similarities when it comes to our strategic thought and culture. So this is the best example one can put forward. But Pakistan needs to realize which part is going to help it best. And we need to channel our potential in that direction. And we can have
finally, Dr. Salma Malik, I'd like to revert to the Russian doctrine of this Russian world, in which they talk about protecting, safeguarding and advancing the traditions and ideals of the Russian world. We've also seen the impact that the West has had. We've seen the cultural and other impacts that India has had and how it's played on the soft power and its narrative in order to build itself as a nation. Seeking the example of the Russian doctrine, do you feel Pakistan can also build up on its soft power through the narrative, just like India has been doing?
Absolutely, absolutely. Pakistan has so much to share with the world. Pakistan has so much potential, and we have been working on it. Look, today's world is full of opportunities. When it comes to the media outlets, so many other things, all we need to do is package these things well. There are so many shining icons in Pakistan, but having said this, the one thing that pulls down Pakistan is that image of a country which is flooded all over by water, poverty, so many other things post-flood. There's a lot of empathy for Pakistan at the moment because we are on the receiving end of the worst of climate change. Let's use this opportunity to turn the tables. Let's try to build these unfortunate cities, rural areas, which have been affected and are still being affected as a result of these floods, and try to build a Pakistan which is owned by people, which is led by people, and try and see how we can manage these things. It is not very difficult. We have enough human resource. All we need to do is build a direction, build a vision, and work on it. And once we become self-reliant internally, no one can ignore us. You
that
see,
is
this
so
is the
true,
thing
Dr.
that we
Salma
need
Malik.
to.
I totally agree with you on that, and I think it's very important for us to also have our Pakistan world after the doctrine that Russia has put up, because in this whole changing arena of geostrategy, geopolitics and geoeconomics, it's very important that countries like Pakistan understand the whole perspective and move forward with its own way of connecting to the different powers that be, and we are doing that, and we have shown that Pakistan does not want to be part of a bloc but wants to have strong relationship with all the countries possible, and that is what Pakistan's foreign policy is all about. Let's come to our last three stories very quickly. The first is the relationship between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Now, the Minister of Defense of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Transformation Management Office Chief Executive Officer Dr. Samir bin Abdulaziz Al Tabib visited the Chief of the Army Staff, General Qamar Javed Bajwa Saab, on Thursday, and of course they discussed issues of mutual interest, and not only that, they also shared the commonalities that exist between both the countries and the collaboration and the cooperation that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has been providing Pakistan with in the past and in the present and in this time of needs of the flood as well. Also, Saudi King Salman bin Abdulaziz and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman had also shared their condolences with our President Dr. Arif Alvi in the past as well when these floods happened, and our Foreign Minister has also been talking to his Saudi counterpart as far as apprising of the flood situation is concerned. So there is a very strong relationship, and that is strengthened by visits by the Saudi dignitaries such as the Minister of Defense, who is here right now and has met with the Chief of the Army Staff. This is a relationship that continues to foster, that continues to strengthen. Let's come to our next story, and that concerns India, that is, as per the founder of Genocide Watch and the President Dr. Gregory Stanton, is preparing for genocidal massacres of 200 million Muslims. This has been stated in a very alarming way by the founder and the chairman of Genocide Watch, Dr. Gregory Stanton. He says the persecution of Muslims is reflected in the anti-Muslim measures that include the termination of Kashmir's autonomy. Here he's talking of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Discriminatory Citizenship Amendment Act, and the dehumanization of Muslims through hate speech. And there are so many examples of all that he has reiterated in the events that have untangled in India and that have happened in India and continue to happen in India since the last few years, especially after the abrogation of Articles 370 and 35A. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, renowned educationist Hunaid Lakhani passed away in Karachi at the age of 49. He had travelled Thatta to participate in flood relief activities. Therein, he developed a fever and condition that started to deteriorate, and he was subsequently diagnosed with dengue. But unfortunately, doctors could not save him because, as you know, what dengue causes is that it causes a reduction in the platelet count. And when the doctors got to know about dengue, that he had developed dengue, it was a bit bit too late in the day. The funeral prayers are going to take place tomorrow, as both the children of Mr. Lakhani live abroad. Nevertheless, a huge loss for Pakistan's education system and for philanthropy in Pakistan as well. We pray for the departed soul, and we wish his family all the strength possible. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to you, us, and Pakistan. Stay safe, follow the SOPs for all the different diseases. Even dengue is on the rise, so beware of that and try to avoid places where there are containers of water outside, and also help the victims of floods as much as you can through the Prime Minister's fund, through the army, through the other armed forces, through the NGOs, and through all those people who are working on their own and bringing relief goods to the people. Together, we can build a stronger Pakistan after this calamity. Allah Hafiz.